a chapter from Bereshit, which basically is the part where Abraham is still Abram, and it's in summary. What I find very interesting is that it seems to me that this chapter actually talks a lot about fear and uncertainty. That the very first thing that happens is the Lord comes to Avram and says, "Fear not, I am your shield, and your reward is exceedingly great." And Abraham is still concerned, like, but I don't have any children. How do I know that this will happen? And God takes him outside and says, "Don't worry, you will have your own seed. Come outside with me. Your offspring will be as numerous as the stars," and tells him how righteous he is, and it's as a reward for his righteousness and for his faith in the Lord. And then the Lord tells him, "Is it 1 minute?"
That's it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay, number 2. Sorry, cut it off so briefly. That's what we do.
I didn't
Right.
No, it's difficult to do in 1 minute.
Here, I'll do 5 seconds.
We got the Book of Shemot, and we got the 10 Commandments, which is a really good one. So as we were reading it, we got up to the commandment for to keep the Shabbat, and in it says that you shouldn't do any work, and that you should make sure your sons and daughters don't do any work, and your servants and your maidservants and your animals, and no one should do work. So our question was, why do we have to say, and you shouldn't do work, and your children shouldn't do work, if everyone was being talking together and commanded at Har Sinai together? So we came to the conclusion that the children need a little help, and their parents are the ones that are in charge of making sure that they get on the right direction and that they know what to do.
Amazing. Yeah. John, very good. Number 3.
Start?
Yeah, go.
So we have Vayikra chapter 19, which is like speaking about a lot of different laws and like commandments. It starts with, and the Lord spoke to Moses saying, and then they're following all the different laws, and it's always repeated, "I'm the Lord your God," like again and again and again. And then at the end, it's reminded that, like, I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, which like this shows us like the connection we are actually now going through in this period, where like we had Tessa, we count Omer, and now actually tomorrow we receive all the laws and all the commandments. And like one question I have is why it's always repeated, "I'm the Lord your God." Why do we have to repeat that why does Hashem has to repeat it all the time?
Thank you, Leah. All right.
Okay, so we had Bamidbar, chapter 13, which is Shalach Lecha, and when I got this sheet, I was really overcome with emotion, because today's my bat mitzvah anniversary, and this is my bat mitzvah portion, so it's such a coincidence that we got this. This talks about the 12 spies that were sent to scout out the land of Israel, and to bring back a report on it, what the land is like, what the people are like there, the different fruits. And when the 12 spies come back, they give a pretty bad report about the land. They think that the people there are too strong and there's no way they can overcome them. But then Caleb ben Yefunet tries to silence them and say, "Don't worry, we can definitely overcome these people. We can take possession of this land." So I think we can learn from Caleb, like, to stand up against the crowd when people are talking badly, and to always stand up for what we believe in. Try to look for the bright side.
Very nice. Okay.
Okay, I have Devarim chapter 30, and it starts by talking about being returned from exile, and not only a return to the land, but a return to God, and the need to look within in a devotion to God, and to look into one's heart. And overall, if one's devoted to God in your mind and your heart, that you and your offspring will prosper in the land that He's given you.
Yay!
We got the first chapter of Yehoshua, which is the first book after the 5 books of Moses. And it talks about God commanding Joshua to take people into the land, to finish off what was started with the Exodus from Egypt. And John pointed out a beautiful, connection between the two parts that we got, two chapters that we got. This one was the Exodus and the Ten Commandments, where God says, I'm God who took you out of Egypt, and when he took us out of Egypt, he said, I'm going to take you to the land. And then we got this chapter, which is exactly when that happened. And so there's a beautiful connection between the two. But we also noted that God says to Joshua, take them into the land asher ani noten lachem. So the verb is noten in the present tense. He says, I'm going to take them into the land that I am giving you, which means that he's constantly giving us land. It's not a one-time action, and all of us here are part of that giving.
Beautiful. Which number are we on now?
7. Oh, that's me.
7?
No, 7? Wait, you did Yehoshua. Someone Shoftim. That's weird. Okay, well, we're skipping 3 books here.
Wait, what did that?
Shmuel?
No.
Shmuel Bet?
Should be.
What's 7?
Shoftim.
Right.
Who's 7?
Someone
Who's 7?
Are you 7?
No, 7.
Anyone have Shoftim?
7 is, wait, what's Shoftim? Judges. Who has judges? No one here has judges. I can just check quickly summarize judges.
No, it should be all there.
Yeah.
Wait, yours is number 7?
Was every single one handed out?
It might have been that I numbered them wrong.
Mine is number 7, but really it's,
No.
I guess not. 7.
There's 24.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Should I summarize
What is
judges?
8? Who's number 8?
I have 8.
What is 8?
Malachim?
Oh yeah, so Shoftim was just skipped. Wait, no, Shmuel. No, Malachim, that comes after me.
Who was
Yeah.
9?
Should I just...
What's 9? You have 9.
I got 9.
What's 9? Isaiah. 10.
Maybe this was meant to summarize that entire period of history.
Let's say that.
Okay,
Let's go
excellent.
with that.
So here we go.
There's not much that happens in those 2 books.
Yeah, nothing. Okay, so basically this is the most dense story period in the entire Tanach. But basically it's really one of the things that the Shoftim is basically the judges period of Israel. It's after there's a centralized ruler. The Jews are spread out throughout the country, and do I get 3 minutes instead of 1?
No.
Okay. So basically, Jews are spread out. It's really insane because there's literally different rulers popping up in different areas, and there's different threats from abroad. Here was noted earlier by Rivka that it's very interesting because the Torah actually gives us a lot of personalities who are really evil people, like not good people, and it's asked often, why are these people put on display? And it just goes to show that the Torah really isn't looking to be some sort of like stratospheric thing, but really something that's down to earth, something relatable, and people do mess up, and it's important to learn from those people as well as the righteous people in the world, which brings us on to Shmuel, where basically the Jews kind of reconvene and try and reunify themselves under a kingship, that being Saul, in the first book, the prequel to my book, where basically Saul is basically anointed, and the Jewish people basically beseech God for a king. They ask, we want a king like all the other nations, and they get Shaul, who takes a lot of who basically reunifies the people. Then comes David. The parakut, which I have the verse, the chapter, which I'm summarizing right now, is David on his deathbed, which basically after a very, very successful reconquering of the land and sort of reunification of the Jewish people and consecration of Jerusalem as the capital, he isn't able to erect the Mikdash, the temple that's sort of reserved for his son. And he's lamenting the fact that in his house, and this is one of the things that he says, which is very poignant, he says, he likens his house. He says, God of Israel, concerning me, the rock, a ruler over men shall be righteous, and a ruler that fears God. And then he says, two verses later, my house is not so with God, for an everlasting covenant he has made with me, but the wicked are all as thorns thrust away, for they cannot be taken in hand. He basically is describing, he's lamenting, in other words, basically that he realizes that his house is not unified as he had hoped. Indeed, he has sons which are going to veer in different paths. There's of course Solomon, who will build the temple, and then descending from there, David's already foreseeing a schism of the Jewish people, which will be coming up shortly. That's 3 books. That's 7.
I have it. You want to skip that? Okay, so 8, Malachim.
You have to get up back
Stand.
on the chair.
On the chair.
No, so the two parts I found interesting based off of, we're still recording, that's weird. Because you're talking about David's death, and this is obviously talking about the impact that David has had beyond his lifetime. So part of it is talking about how up until the point of David, there wasn't an actual location that is mentioned or that is chosen for where the temple is going to be built, but rather they describe that it's, at least here, in these words, that it's going to be built, it comes forth from David's heart. The location is picked out of David's heart. So it's more about not the physical, but about what emanates from the people, and that's what creates the physical space. I'm going to go with that.
Okay, so I got Isaiah chapter 1, which is sort of a very interesting chapter because it talks about the problems that we're having and we have to change our ways, sort of thing. And there's the two psukim that are in the middle that really catch the essence of what we're supposed to do. And it says, and it's talking about if you wash and cleanse yourself, right, and to before your eyes. And it's interesting that it talks about your eyes, that you need to change the way you look at the world in order to understand how to change your actions, right? The first thing that needs to happen is be able to see a situation differently than the situation that you see it now. And the next line it says is about doing stuff for other people that maybe necessarily you wouldn't even think about. And if we do those things and we change the way we look at it, we'll get the rewards that we need.
Josh. Awesome, thank you. So I have here the book of Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah chapter 2. Jeremiah chapter 2 has a lot of doom and gloom in it. It's not such a uplifting parak. However, the beginning of it is something that ties in, I think, very much so to Shavuot and also to the Parsha of Shavuot. It says, "Go and call out to the ears of Jerusalem, saying, 'So said the Lord, I remember to you the loving kindness of your youth.'" Right? "Zacharti lecha chesed ne'orayach." I remember the loving kindness of the youth. This is talking about the Jewish people when they were walking through the desert, following Hashem. Now you can just imagine what that must be like. God says, "Leave Egypt and walk out in the desert," and it's there's no food, there's no water. Nevertheless, the Jewish people went out to the desert, and nevertheless, when they were offered the Torah, they said, "Na'aseh v'nishma." Before we even know what's in it, we're willing to take it. We're willing to live according to the Torah because we want to have a connection and a relationship with you, Hashem. So Yirmiyahu is lamenting, where did that go? Where did that time period go when the Jewish people, where Am Yisrael was this loving, beautiful young child, and now they're a rebellious teenager?
Okay, I have Yechezkel chapter 37, and I think this is actually kind of a famous part of Tanach, at least for the Dati-Leumi movement, because as we're all coming back to Israel now, we're trying to understand the religious and spiritual implications of us coming back here, which is crazy and really hard for everyone to understand, but we're working on it. Everyone should really read this, Yechezkel 37, because it explains sort of this prophecy that Yechezkel receives about seeing these bones in the desert, and then all of a sudden the flesh starts growing around the bones. And it's really, and there's some other just really, weird, trippy stuff that happens. I mean, all of Yechezkel's like that, but it's just, you just really read this because it kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of comforting if you feel like you're living in Israel now and things are not necessarily as spiritually amazing as you would like as you look around in the society. Basically, just we should have some patience because in the future things will get better.
Who's next?
Number 11?
Oh, that was 11.
Okay. So I got Sefer Jonah, and I got chapter 1, which is the beginning. And it's funny because in 6 psukim, it pretty much sets this scene. It's really weird. So Jonah's called to go to Nineveh to give a prophecy to the people of Nineveh, and he gets on this boat, and a huge storm happens in the Yam, and all of a sudden you have these sailors that are throwing stuff off the boat to make, and it says the words "Lahakel me'alehem," throw all their kalim, throw all their dishes, all their vessels off the boat in order for for them to be light or for the boat to be light, and then all of a sudden the storm will and they'll be saved from the storm, which is really weird. So it's really weird how it says it uses the word lahakel me'alehem. It'll lighten upon what's over them or what's going over them. And a chidush or something that's new that I thought to bring out was the fact that in a time of great need, they started to pray towards their own God. And in the end, they actually find out that Yonah's God is one that's one that actually did Geshem, but who's one who serves in our own world. And in that fact, they're able to have this full process of getting rid of their sort of beliefs in their God in order to have inspired by Yonah, believe in
Throwing out their
Hashem.
old gods. Very nice.
Ki'ilu.
Very nice.
13.
13.
That's us somewhere. Yeah. No. Oh, weird. What? Okay. Okay, 13 is Tehillim. You guys listening? Okay. We skipped a lot of books, did we not?
Well, I think Jonas was representative of Trey's.
Oh, I see. I got it. Worthwhile chapter.
There's more than 24 if you add.
No, only a minute. Okay. Only a minute. Okay, stop. Okay. Tehillim. Okay, Psalms. The entire book of Psalms, right? It has tons of chapters. I got chapter 119. Thank you for choosing a chapter with. Yes, that's 176 verses. So I'm going to sum that up, though, in one verse, which I think is really powerful and really drives the purpose of this chapter, possibly the entire purpose of what we're doing here home. And it's a very commonly quoted pasuk. There are actually a lot of very quotable quotes here. But this one is Baruch Ata Hashem Lamdeni Chukecha. And this is a very deep blessing, which David, in the depth, he talks about the depths of his misery and what he's sort of suffering here, the psychological anxiety and just trauma, consistent with my other paragraph. Fine. But basically, even in the depths of his trauma, that's cute. In the depths of his trauma, David still thinks about blessed are you, O Lord, teach me your statutes. He looks to the Torah and he realizes that this is a place to hold on to and to really reconnect, I guess, with the people, and he views it as a blessing, which I definitely resonates with me, and I think with all of us, the blessing of Torah that we have that we're experiencing tonight.
My dad got 14. It's a treat to learn with him tonight. We were reading it and it said, the words of Lemuel the king, prophecy his mother chastised him. And we got to that part. He said, you gotta learn this one. Because definitely is relevant for me. She has chastised me, and she's right. So this is chapter 31. You guys probably know most of it because it has Eshet Chayil for most of the chapter is Eshet Chayil, which is Shlomo's basically mic drop at the end of Mishlei. You guys all know what it says there. So the first 9 psukim deal with something else. There's a king. They call him Lemuel. It could be referring to Shlomo, and he's not. The mother's basically calling him out for not doing what she thinks a king should be doing. This king is spending a lot of time with women, drinking a lot of wine, and she says, "Don't do that. What you should be doing as a king, first of all, give the wine to basically as a sedative to like someone who's in pain. You're not in pain. You should be doing things such as opening your mouth to the dumb, and to plead the cause of the poor and needy. That's a king should be working in social justice and not be euthanizing himself with pleasures."
Alright, so I had Job, chapter 1, and basically Job is this really great guy, sincere and upright, God-fearing and shunning evil. Despite all of this, Job doesn't sin, which I think is a lot we can definitely learn from Job. I have this planner that I really love that gives me quotations every week, about like how to live your week. And so a few weeks ago it was happiness depends upon ourselves from Aristotle. And basically, like, I think we can learn both in a divine sense and in just like an everyday sense, in a not divine sense, that we should be like, we should have faith in ourselves, and even when the bad things come along, we just need to kind of keep pushing along, be a little engine that could, and see that there's something better coming.
So I got the first chapter of Shir Hashirim, of the Song of Songs, which is on a very superficial level a love song, and on a very deep level a love song. But it's between the Jewish people and God. It's got a lot of very intimate language, and it was even a debate in the Gemara as to whether or not to even include it as one of the books of the Tanach. So it's very striking in its imagery. But one pasuk that really stood out to me is, "Do not look upon me disdainfully because I am swarthy, for the sun has gazed upon me." My mother's sons were incensed against me. They made me a keeper of the vineyards. My own vineyard I did not keep. So I think that's probably referring to. I would think mother's sons are our siblings scattered across the world. As part of the human family perhaps, and they came and they had us tend to their vineyards, and we neglected our own. So we got sort of sidetracked with their work and with what they needed, and in so doing, we kind of forgot ourselves and forgot what we needed to be doing, and that led to the rupture that a lot of the Shir Shirim is lamenting.
I had Ruth chapter 4. So Ruth is just like this story about Naomi and how she loses everything, her husband and both of her sons, and then she's heading back home, and she's telling both of her daughters-in-laws to go back to their own country, to go back to their own land, and then Ruth basically clings to her and says she's not leaving and that she's going to stay, and she's going to steadfastly stay with her. And she says to Naomi, I'm going to make your people my people and your God my God. And and so then they go back, and then it's just this really beautiful story about family, and then also kind of this I think for me, like the verse that stands out is towards the end of the story, because of what Ruth did. The women are saying to Naomi, your daughter-in-law who loves you bore this son, and she is better to you than 7 sons, which I just thought was really beautiful.
So I have Eicha, which is basically talking about Yerushalayim is basically completely destroyed and everything's super depressing. So they write this really, really sad but beautiful poem as mourning, and it's like super depressing. I'll give you an example. She weeps in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. She has no comforter among all her lovers. All her friends have betrayed her. They've become her enemies, and it's pretty much all downhill from there. So what it's trying to do is it's taking this terrible, terrible situation, and it's making one of the most beautiful. It's mourning, which is important. Like if something really bad happens, we have to mourn. But it ends really beautifully. The last line is Hashibenu Elecha b'neshuba chadesh chachenu yemenu kedem. So it's saying, yes, all this terrible stuff has happened, but now what we're going to take out of it is we're gonna ask that we can return to those good old days and make ourselves great like we used to be.
Make Jerusalem great again. This is chapter 12 of Kohelet, and Kohelet is considered to be by some a sort of flashback by King Shlomo, and it contains the very famous Vanity of Vanities, all is vanity, and there are many proverbs in Kohelet as well as in Mishlei. But it ends off with the final apostle: for every deed God will bring to judgment, for everything good or bad. And when it starts off in this chapter, it tells you to remember your Creator when you're young, not before bad things happen or when you're not in a position to do things. So the sort of moral of the story that Kohelet wants us to know is that what's important is the deeds, the things that we do, more than just the learning and just the writing of books and studying. So, when one is in the best position to do things when you're young, and so when you can do it and seize the day.
Carpe diem.
It is.
Okay, I have another one, and it's Esther chapter 9. And so just, the whole story of Esther and the whole story of Purim is just like crazy, and everything's like inverted and like really weird. Again, like Ezekiel, but like so I don't know, just it's like really cool, and it's just like a really cool line is it says, or no, it's like a happy ending to the story also because the Jews can like defeat the enemies. It says like 75,000, and then it says as the day when the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month that was reversed for them from grief to joy, from mourning to a festive day, to make them days of feasting and joy and sending portions one to another and gifts to the poor. So it's just like funny how sometimes things can seem really awful or things can seem really incredible, but actually sometimes it can be like the opposite if we really see the truth. And on Purim, I think you can always just like really feel that, like how everything is kind of like the opposite of what it seems, which is fun, It's Hashem's fun.
I'm Danielle, Beit, which is about the dream that Nebuchadnezzar has, and then nobody can interpret the dream until Danielle is called, and then he's able to interpret it. But before he interprets it, he says, I'm not doing it, it's from Hashem, and Hashem is interpreting, and he's giving me the power to be able to interpret it. And then after he does, and he interprets it correctly, so Nebuchadnezzar realizes that Hashem is the true God, and he says, truly your God is the God of the gods and the master of the kings. And he reveals secrets, being that you were able to reveal the secret. Then Nebuchadnezzar gives Daniel all these presents, and he makes him ruler of all these cities. So I think an important message we can take from this is always to remember that your talents and things that you have is from Hashem, and then maybe in one will merit to get great gifts like Daniel did.
So I've got the 10th and I believe the final chapter of the book of Ezra, and it's basically it's rebuke more or less for intermarriage, and then a big list of people that in fact intermarried, which is an intense chapter to read as a son of intermarried parents, but it really highlights, I guess, some of the intensity and the difficulty in starting a redemption from a long and hard. This is at the end of the exile to Babylon, and so it's really describing sort of the difficult beginnings from a difficult exile, and then that eventually led to an incredible renaissance and rejuvenation of like Jewish practice and Jewish life. So sometimes it's rough in the beginning, but then it gets better.
I got Nehemiah chapter 8, and pretty much it talks about one of the first practicing of Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot. And when you read it, it is really, really weird and not anything you would assume it would be at all. Like, instead of having, like a day of prayer, they read like the Torah scroll once. Everyone cries. Nehemiah tells them, stop crying, go give poor people food. And then the next day they come back, read the Torah scroll again, and find out they have to live in huts for the rest of the month. So it's just very, very interesting to see how our practices and holidays have changed throughout the years.
Number 24?
Yeah, this is it. Drum
Yeah.
roll!
It's such a chapter, and I will not talk exactly about the chapter. If you guys want, please read it. It's Devarim chapter 6. So if I can get, because it's a lot, people, it's really a lot. If I can give something about the chapter, we have a direction to pray for. We have the whole city, and we have access to parts of the where the Shekinah dwells, where the divine presence dwells. Wherever you guys go, I don't know who will be here, who will return to other parts of the world. Wherever you guys go, geographically, physically, and spiritually, remember, we have a place where Hashem listens to our prayer, where Hashem listens to the prayer of everyone. That's it.
Yeah.